You are listening to the Marc Guzman Podcast Experience.
So the next topic we want to get into is our real estate origin story, and basically how Brian, you and I got into real estate. So Brian, I'll let you take it away. How did you get into real estate, and how and why did you keep this as your career?
Well, I wish I could say something really cool, like I was bit by a radioactive spider, but that unfortunately didn't happen. So I started my career back in 1991, right out of high school. Actually, I passed my real estate license test in January of 1991, and turned 18 in March, and literally out of my senior year of high school started selling houses. Now, I never intended to be in real estate. As a matter of fact, I wanted to study biology and become a scientist. So I actually used my real estate agent's license to pay for my way through college, got a degree in biology. And by the time I did, because I was working full-time in real estate and taking a full load, which wasn't, always easy to do, I was like 6 years in the business. So by this time, I had really gotten a lot of my ropes down, and it was a really bad economy to start in 1991. I won't get into all the reasons why, but it was a lot worse than what we previously experienced from 2008 to 2012 in what we call the Great Recession, when the banks were all closed. So during that period of time, I'm a college student, and I get into buying 4-unit buildings because I want to be able to live in a unit and have my renters pay for my expenses so I can continue to save money, go to college. So after finishing college and getting a biology degree and actually going to work for a pharmaceutical company doing recombinant DNA, I realized this is really boring. So I was so much better at real estate, and I developed a pretty large clientele of multifamily investors, including myself, and I had gotten a lot of the personal ropes down of 1031 exchanges, investor financing versus owner-occupied financing. So my mantra became, instead of just buying a house, let me sell you a 4-unit building first using FHA with 3.5% down, and then within 3 to 6 months later, let's buy that single-family house so that you have the income from the 4 units paying half or all of your mortgage payment on your house, which is exactly what I did. And so that whole story kept carrying on where, let me sell you an apartment and a house, and then we'll sell you a second and a third and a fourth apartment. And so soon all my clients had 5 or 6 4-unit buildings and their house, right? So my typical client, instead of buying one house every 4 to 5 years, would do 3 transactions a year the first time they met me. And then I would tell them, like, let's revisit your 4-unit buildings a year later, a year and a half later, resell them, 1031 exchange them into like an 8-plex or larger. And so I just kept repeating this process and over and over again. Found myself sometime in 2000 with about 150 apartment units, this office building that I own now, and a couple of agents started working for me. In fact, many of my agents that first started to work for me were my past clients who had quit their jobs and then had cash flow from their apartments, and then became my first 10 real estate agents. In fact, some of those 10 real estate agents are still with me today. Literally like 20 years later, I've seen their kids grow up. And during that period of time when I had owned a bunch of apartment buildings and office buildings and was still selling real estate, I started picking up all these great ideas from this wonderful CPA that I still use today, that gave me the ability or the knowledge to write off different types of income that I generated from my real estate investments, from passive to capital gains to my real estate commissions. And this segued later into being a real estate developer, where I was able to condo convert several of my apartment buildings, which created a huge capital gain that later segued into being able to take ground up properties, go through the entitlement process of getting raw land approved for a highest and best use. And most of the time they were apartment units, right? Retail on the bottom, apartments at the top. And then during that time, I being really, really high net worth, I also experienced the big downturn of 2007 to 2012, where the mortgage crisis occurred. So again, I'm not going to get into a whole lot because that was like a whole story unto its own. But that got me into a whole lot of the various technical aspects of personal guarantees and things of this nature, which allowed me to go into consulting for high net worth individuals who were going through the same issues. And then, somewhere like around 2011, 2012, after having been able to recover from some pretty large losses, but again, because of the fact that I was pretty well bolstered with about 1,000 apartment units at the time, office buildings and retail, and then I was still able to sell real estate, I was right there being able to deal make, and that took me all the way through here. So why do I still keep doing it? Because I really do enjoy it. It's exciting. There's never a dull moment, and the laws are ever changing. At some point, I do want to retire, but I'm still relatively young, even after 29 years in the business. And so I figure I still have another 20 years on the tank. So anyways, with that, I'm going to hand it back off to you, Marc.
Okay, so catch us on next week's episode where I talk about my origin story.
I'm sorry, did I just take up your time?
Which, we'll talk about it next week.
Okay. Were you bit by a radioactive spider?
No, I wish I was.
Oh.
That would have been so much more fun. Imagine doing the inspections by just climbing up the side of the building.
It would have been great. Yeah.
Unless I was the guy from the movie Free Solo, that Alex.
I saw that.
Yeah,
that was crazy.
That was a great movie. I mean, completely like my palms, everything sweaty. I was nervous the entire time just watching it. I wasn't even there at El Capitan. But anyway,